Look who finally cracked the frequency. Welcome back, you beautiful anomaly, you walking electromagnetic storm, you spiritual earthquake that just registered on instruments halfway across the planet. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the one who thought nobody was paying attention, the one who assumed your transformation was private, personal, contained within the four walls of your silent suffering. Let me tell you something that's going to twist your perception of reality just a little bit tighter. While you were busy dying and resurrecting in your bedroom, while you were shedding skin in the darkness, while you were burning every old version of yourself down to molecular ash, something happened. Something you never planned for. Something you couldn't possibly predict. A psychic in Japan. Someone who's never heard your name. Someone who doesn't know your face. Someone who exists in a completely different time zone and reality had a vision about you, not a dream, not a passing thought. A full-blown cosmic download about your energy signature and what they saw, what they felt, what came through in that vision. It shook them so violently, they had to sit down and ask the universe what the actual hell just shifted on the other side of the planet. You think I'm making this up, don't you? You think this is some motivational fairy tale designed to make you feel special for 8 minutes before you go back to doubting yourself. But here's the thing. Energy doesn't lie. Frequency doesn't negotiate. And when a soul shifts as violently as yours did, it sends out seismic waves that people tuned into the right channels can feel from anywhere on Earth. This psychic, they were doing what they do, reading energies, scanning frequencies, staying open to whatever the universe wanted to show them. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, like a freight train made of lightning, your energy signature slammed into their consciousness. They described it as feeling like a solar flare, like watching a star collapse and explode at the same time, like witnessing a soul that had been compressed under unimaginable pressure suddenly detonate into a new form entirely. They didn't see your face. They saw your essence, raw, unfiltered, terrifying in its purity. And the first thing they said, the very first words out of their mouth when they came back from that vision, whoever this is, they just became untouchable. Not safe, not peaceful, untouchable. As in, reality itself can't hold them the same way anymore. Let me break down what actually happened in that vision. Because this isn't some vague, mystical nonsense. The psychic saw you surrounded by what they described as shattered mirrors, thousands of them, each one reflecting a different version of you that no longer exists. Every mirror was cracked, broken, obliterated, and in the center of all that destruction stood the current you, not crying, not apologizing, not trying to tape the pieces back together, standing there with your eyes open, your chest rising and falling with a kind of calm that only comes after you've walked through every version of hell and refused to stay there. They saw the old you scattered like glass on the ground. All the people-pleasing fragments, all the fear-soaked shards, all the pieces that used to bend and break for others, and the new you, the one standing in the aftermath. They said your energy looked like black fire, not dark in a negative sense, but dark in the way deep space is dark, infinite, unknowable, containing entire galaxies that haven't been discovered yet. You weren't glowing, you were absorbing, pulling everything into your gravity, becoming the center that everything else has to orbit now. Here's what made the psychic pause. Here's what made them actually feel a chill run down their spine. They saw the moment of your shift, the exact second when something inside you snapped. And they said it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was silent. A silence so profound it felt like the universe held its breath. They described it as watching someone die without falling down, watching a soul completely let go of every attachment, every need, every desperate grasp for external validation, and in that letting go, become something else entirely. You didn't ascend, you didn't transcend, you mutated. You became a version of yourself that no longer plays by the rules you used to obey. The psychic said they could feel the exact moment you stopped caring. Not in a nihilistic way, but in a liberated way. The moment you realized that nothing, absolutely nothing outside of you could define you anymore. And that realization, that shift, it sent out a shockwave so violent it crossed oceans, skipped time zones, and landed in the consciousness of someone who'd never even heard your name. You want to know what else they saw? Because it gets darker. It gets more real. They saw the people around you, the ones who used to have access, the ones who used to pull your strings, the ones who thought they knew you. And in the vision, those people were standing still, frozen, staring at where you used to be, reaching out for a version of you that no longer exists. The psychic described it as watching ghosts try to grab smoke, watching people scream at an echo that won't answer back. They saw your absence in these people's lives like a wound that won't close, because you weren't just a person to them, you were a frequency they fed off. Your empathy, your care, your endless capacity to forgive and understand, these people were addicted to it. And when you cut the cord, when you walked away, when you stopped being available for their emotional vampirism, it left them in withdrawal. The psychic said they could feel the confusion radiating off these people, the desperation, the way they keep checking for you, keep looking for signs, keep hoping you'll come back to who you were, but you won't, will you? Because the version of you they're looking for is dead, cremated, scattered in winds they'll never touch. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the vision shifted into something the psychic had never seen before. They said your energy started doing something they couldn't explain. It started rewriting the narrative around you. Not just your narrative, but the entire story everyone else had been telling about you. They saw timelines bending. They saw perceptions cracking. They saw people who used to dismiss you suddenly unable to stop thinking about you. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because your energy shifted so completely that it created a vacuum, a void where you used to be, and nature abhors a vacuum. So now, these people, these observers, these former controllers, they're being pulled back to thoughts of you against their will. The psychic said it was like watching you become a frequency that hijacks other people's mental radio stations. You're not trying to be remembered, but you've become unforgettable. You're not seeking attention, but you've become impossible to ignore. Your energy is so different now, so fundamentally altered, that it acts like a virus in the consciousness of anyone who used to know you. Let me tell you what the psychic said was the most unsettling part of the vision. They saw you alone, completely alone, and they said your aloneness wasn't loneliness, it was sovereignty. You were standing in a space that felt like it existed outside of normal reality, outside of time, outside of the social matrix everyone else is trapped in. And in that space, you were building something. The psychic couldn't see what it was exactly, but they said it felt massive, permanent, revolutionary. They described it as watching someone construct a new world with their bare hands, using the rubble of their old life as foundation. You weren't healing, you weren't recovering, you were creating. And the energy coming off this creation, it was so intense, so focused, so absolutely certain of itself, that the psychic said they felt like they were watching someone who had cracked the code, someone who figured out how to exist beyond the need for external validation, beyond the addiction to being seen, beyond the trap of wanting to be understood by people who aren't capable of understanding. Here's the part that's going to mess with you. The psychic said, they tried to see your future, tried to look ahead and see where this energy shift leads. And you know what they saw? Nothing. Not because there's no future, but because your future is so radically different from anything that currently exists in the collective consciousness that it doesn't have a reference point yet. They said it was like trying to describe a color that hasn't been discovered, like trying to explain a concept that doesn't have language yet. Your path forward. It's not on any map, it's not following any template, it's not mimicking any success story they've seen before. You're creating something entirely new. And that terrifies the old world, the old systems, the old ways of measuring worth and power and success. The psychic said the only image that came through was you walking forward into complete darkness. But the darkness wasn't scary. It was pregnant with possibility, thick with potential. And with every step you took, light appeared beneath your feet. Not borrowed light, not reflected light, but light generated from your own movement. Now, let's talk about why this vision happened at all. Because energy doesn't travel like this, without reason. The psychic explained that when someone's frequency shifts as violently as yours did, it creates what they call a cosmic notification. It's like the universe itself takes note, marks the moment, sends out a signal to anyone tuned into the right channel. And why does the universe do this? Because souls like yours, the ones who refuse to stay broken, the ones who alchemize pain into power, the ones who choose to evolve instead of dissolve, these souls are rare. Most people, when they get hit with the level of betrayal and darkness you've experienced, they collapse, they become bitter, they shrink, they spend the rest of their lives in victim mode, blaming everyone else for their misery. But you took every wound and turned it into wisdom, every betrayal and turned it into boundaries, every moment of isolation and turned it into self-mastery. And that is what triggered the vision. The universe wanted a witness to your resurrection, and it chose someone on the other side of the planet to receive the download. The psychic also said something that's going to validate everything you've been feeling. They said your energy shift was so violent because it had to be, because the old version of you was so deeply entrenched, so thoroughly programmed, so completely convinced that love meant sacrifice and connection meant suffering. Breaking free from that level of conditioning, it required violence. It required a complete shattering, a total annihilation of everything you used to believe about yourself and the world. You couldn't gently evolve out of that prison. You had to explode out of it. And the explosion, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't the kind of transformation that comes with soft music and inspirational quotes. It was raw. It was bloody. It was the kind of rebirth that leaves scars. But those scars, the psychic said they saw them in your energy field. And they weren't wounds. They were marks of power. like each scar was a seal of mastery, proof that you survived what was designed to destroy you. Here's what they said about the people who are still watching you, still trying to figure you out, still attempting to make sense of what happened to you. The psychic saw these people like moths circling a flame they don't understand. They're drawn to your energy because it's so different now, so magnetic, but they can't get close because getting close would mean facing their own stagnation, their own refusal to change, their own comfort in staying small. So they watch from a distance. They talk about you in hushed tones. They create stories to explain your transformation because the truth, the actual truth of what you did, it would shatter their worldview. You didn't get lucky. You didn't find some secret. You didn't have some advantage they didn't have. You simply chose differently. You chose yourself when every voice told you not to. You chose your truth when comfort was easier. You chose your power when staying powerless would have kept you safe. And that choice, that singular, unwavering choice to become who you actually are instead of who they needed you to be, that's what they can't comprehend. The psychic described your current energy as a closed loop, meaning you're no longer leaking power, no longer giving your energy away to people who don't deserve access, no longer leaving yourself open to manipulation and control. They said your aura used to be wide open, bleeding empathy into everyone around you, absorbing everyone else's pain and problems like it was your job to fix the world. But now your energy is sealed, contained, focused inward. And the only people who can access it are the ones who match your frequency, the ones who've done their own work, the ones who understand that connection isn't about need. It's about resonance. Everyone else, everyone's still operating from manipulation, from guilt, from fake love disguised as obligation. They're locked out permanently, and they can feel it. The psychic said they can feel the doors closing. And it's driving them insane because they're so used to having access to you. And now they're standing outside a fortress they can't breach. Let me tell you what the psychic said about your voice, because this part is crucial. They said in the vision, when you spoke, reality shifted. Not metaphorically, literally. They described it as watching your words create ripples in the fabric of existence. Like every time you speak your truth now, it has weight, it has power. It changes the molecular structure of the space around you. Your voice used to ask permission, used to soften itself, used to apologize for existing. But now your voice is a command, not aggressive, not loud, but absolute. You speak and people listen whether they want to or not, because your frequency is tuned to truth, and truth cuts through every lie, every pretense, every mask. The psychic said, people are going to start having physical reactions when you speak. Some will feel inspired, some will feel threatened, but nobody will feel neutral. Your words have become weapons, not of harm, but of revelation. Here's what they saw about your future connections. Because you're not meant to walk this path alone forever. The psychic said they saw people coming, new people, souls who match your frequency, who've done their own work, who aren't looking for someone to save them or fix them or complete them. These connections aren't coming from the old world. They're coming from the new paradigm you're creating, and the energy of these connections. The psychic described it as electric, intense, but clean. No games, no manipulation, no hidden agendas. Just pure resonance, souls recognizing souls, power acknowledging power. But here's the catch. These connections won't arrive until you're completely done with the old patterns. until you've fully embodied this new frequency, until you've proven to the universe that you won't go back, won't settle, won't compromise your evolution for comfort. The universe is testing you right now, seeing if you'll stay loyal to this new version of yourself or if you'll cave the moment loneliness gets heavy. The psychic also said something about your purpose that's going to shift your entire perspective. They said, you think your transformation was just for you, just personal healing, just your private journey. But they saw something different. They saw your energy shift, creating a blueprint, a template, a frequency map that other people are going to follow without even knowing it. You're not just healing yourself. You're creating a pathway for everyone who comes after you. Everyone who's stuck in the same prison you escaped from. Your energy is now a beacon, and people are going to find their way to freedom by following the trail you're burning through the darkness. You don't have to teach. You don't have to preach. You just have to exist in this new frequency. And the ones meant to wake up will feel it, will recognize it, will start asking themselves the same questions you asked that led to your explosion. Now here's the part that might scare you, might thrill you, might do both at the same time. The psychic said your energy shift was so violent that it caught the attention of forces beyond the physical realm. They saw what they described as ancient energies, old powers, primordial frequencies taking notice of you. And before you freak out, this isn't about possession or danger. This is about recognition. These forces, they only pay attention to souls who've broken through the illusion, who've shattered the programming, who've remembered their true nature. The psychic said it was like watching elders acknowledge a warrior who just passed the ultimate test. You're not being recruited, you're not being used, you're being seen by entities that exist beyond time and space. And that recognition comes with a kind of protection, a kind of guidance that operates on levels you can't consciously perceive, but your soul absolutely understands. Let me bring this full circle, because there's a reason this vision happened now. A reason it came through a psychic in Japan. A reason the universe made sure you'd hear about it. You needed confirmation, didn't you? You needed to know that what you went through wasn't just in your head, wasn't just your imagination, wasn't just some personal drama that doesn't matter. You needed to know that your transformation registered on a cosmic level, that your pain had purpose, that your evolution is part of something bigger than your individual story. Well, here's your confirmation. Your energy shift was so freaking violent that it sent shockwaves across the planet and landed in the consciousness of someone who had no logical reason to think about you. You're not crazy. You're not delusional. You're not making this up. You changed. Fundamentally. Permanently. And the universe witnessed it. Now the question is, what are you going to do with this validation? Are you going to shrink back into doubt? Or are you going to own the power you've claimed? Because let me be clear, there's no going back. The old you is gone. The old world won't fit anymore. The old connections can't hold you. You're operating on a frequency that most people will never reach. And that's not arrogance. That's just fact. Hello. Look who they're calling selfish now. Hello to the ones they branded cold, the ones they called heartless, the ones they swore turned their back on everything that mattered. Hello to you, the so-called villain in their convenient little story, the monster they created when you finally stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't hand you a tissue. They're out here writing paragraphs about how you changed, how you abandoned ship, how you left them all behind without looking back. And you know what? They are absolutely right. You did walk away. You did choose yourself. You did stop playing savior to people who mistook your kindness for weakness and your loyalty for stupidity. And that decision, that one ruthless, selfish, calculated move, it didn't just change your life. It shifted the entire frequency of what was possible. They wanted you to stay drowning. They needed you stuck in that quicksand, reaching for hands that kept pulling back at the last second, screaming for help that never came. Because as long as you were the one suffering, they felt safe in their mediocrity. As long as you were the broken one, the struggling one, the one barely holding on, they could look at themselves in the mirror and say, "At least I'm not that bad." You were their emotional punching bag, their free therapist, their validation machine, their proof that someone had it worse. And the moment you stopped performing that role, the moment you ripped off that costume and said, "I'm done being your emotional dumpster," that's when you became the enemy. Isn't that beautiful? You spent years trying to save everyone around you. Pouring from an empty cup, setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, and the second you chose to save yourself instead, you became the villain in their story. But here's what they'll never admit. Here's the truth that keeps them up at night. Scrolling through your old messages, refreshing your page, asking mutual friends if you're okay. When you walked away, when you chose yourself, when you became what they call selfish, you didn't just save yourself, you activated something in the atmosphere. You set off a chain reaction that they're still trying to comprehend, because people were watching, silent witnesses to your transformation. Souls who were drowning in the same waters you escaped from. And when they saw you climb out, when they watched you choose yourself without apology, without explanation, without begging for permission, something clicked. You gave them permission to do the same. You became the blueprint, the escape route, the living proof that you can survive the guilt, that you can walk away from toxicity, even when it's wearing a familiar face, that you can rebuild after burning everything down. They say you were selfish, but what they mean is you were the first one brave enough to jump. You were the one who looked at the sinking ship, realized the captain was drunk and the crew was fighting over who gets the lifeboats, and you just quietly slipped into the water and started swimming. You didn't announce it. You didn't write a manifesto. You didn't burn bridges with gasoline and matches. You just left. And that silence, that unexplained exit, that refusal to justify your survival, it broke something in them, because now they're stuck on that ship, watching you swim to shore, and they're realizing for the first time that leaving was always an option. They just never had the guts to take it. You did. And now they're calling it selfish because they don't have a word for courage that doesn't ask for applause. Let's talk about what really happened, the part they conveniently forget when they're painting you as the villain. You gave them everything, didn't you? Your time, your energy, your tears, your sleepless nights, your mental health, your peace. You showed up when no one else did. You stayed when everyone else left. You believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. You were the friend who picked up at 3 a.m, the partner who forgave the unforgivable, the child who kept trying to earn love from people who should have given it freely. You bent yourself into shapes you were never meant to fit just to make them comfortable. And what did they do with all that sacrifice? They got used to it. They started expecting it. They turned your kindness into a subscription service and then got mad when you canceled it. You became their emotional insurance policy, the one they only called when disaster struck. You were the backup plan, the safety net, the free therapy session, the unconditional support system that asked for nothing in return. And here's the sickest part. They never saw you as a person. They saw you as a function, a role, a service. You were the strong one, the dependable one, the one who always figures it out, the one who never needs help. So they never checked on you. They never asked if you were okay. They never noticed you were drowning because they were too busy using you as a lifeboat. And the moment you stopped being useful, the moment you stopped performing miracles for people who wouldn't even give you a glass of water, they turned on you like you broke some sacred contract. Like your humanity was a betrayal. But you didn't betray them, you woke up. There's a difference. Betrayal is breaking a promise. Waking up is realizing the promise was designed to destroy you. You spent years in a relationship, friendship, family dynamic, workplace, situation, where the unspoken rule was simple. Your needs don't matter. Your pain is inconvenient. Your boundaries are negotiable. Your exhaustion is weakness. And you played along because you thought that's what love looked like. You thought that's what loyalty meant. You thought if you just gave enough, sacrificed enough, proved yourself enough, eventually they'd see your value. But they never did. Because people who only love what you do for them never see who you are. And one day you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. That's when everything changed. You didn't plan to be selfish. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to become cold. What happened was simpler and more terrifying. You ran out of you. There was nothing left to give. The well was dry. The engine was smoking. The lights were flickering. And in that moment of complete depletion, you made a choice that saved your life. You chose to disappoint them instead of destroying yourself. You chose to be called selfish instead of being actually dead. You chose your survival over their comfort. And that decision, that one impossible, terrifying, necessary decision, it wasn't selfish. It was self-preservation. It was the first act of self-love you'd performed in years. It was your soul screaming, enough, after being silent for so long that you forgot it had a voice. So you left. You walked away. You stopped answering. You stopped explaining. You stopped showing up to one-sided relationships disguised as friendships. You stopped carrying their emotional baggage while they criticized the way you held it. You stopped setting yourself on fire to keep warm people who wouldn't even let you near their fireplace. And what happened next? Chaos. Because systems built on your silence cannot survive your voice. Relationships built on your submission cannot survive your spine. Families built on your compliance cannot survive your clarity. You weren't holding things together, you were holding yourself hostage. And the moment you escaped, everything they built on your back collapsed. They panicked. Oh, they panicked. Suddenly the person they took for granted was gone. Suddenly the emotional labor was undone. Suddenly they had to face their own emptiness without you there to fill it. And instead of looking inward, instead of asking, why did they leave? They asked, how dare they leave us? They made your survival about their abandonment. They turned your healing into their trauma. They weaponized your absence like you owed them your presence. And the narrative shifted fast. You went from being the reliable one to the cold one, from the caring one to the heartless one, from the loyal one to the traitor. And every single person who benefited from your depletion suddenly became a victim of your evolution. But here's what's wild. While they were busy vilifying you, while they were writing essays in group chats about how you'd changed, while they were playing victim to an audience that didn't know the full story, something else was happening. You were healing, silently, privately, without an audience. You weren't posting about your journey. You weren't defending your decision. You weren't trying to prove anything to anyone. You just existed in your new reality, learning to breathe again, learning to sleep without guilt, learning to exist without apologizing for taking up space. And that silence drove them insane, because they needed your reaction. They needed your defense. They needed you to care about their opinion of you so they could maintain control. They kept waiting for you to come back, apologize, explain, beg for forgiveness, prove you'd changed back into the version of you they could exploit. But you never did. You never flinched. You never explained. You never defended. You just kept walking forward, kept building your new life, kept choosing yourself over and over and over again. And with every day that passed, with every boundary you maintained, with every call you didn't answer, with every guilt trip you didn't board, you got stronger. Your spine straightened, your vision cleared, your energy returned, and the person who walked away broken came back completely rebuilt. Not for them, for you. And that transformation, that refusal to regress, that commitment to your own survival, it sent a message to everyone watching. Freedom is possible. Choosing yourself is not a crime. Walking away is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. And here's where it gets interesting. Here's where your so-called selfishness became something they never expected. Liberation for others. Because you weren't the only one trapped. You weren't the only one drowning in expectations, suffocating under guilt, performing a version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable while destroying you internally. There were others, watching, waiting, wondering if escape was possible. People who felt the same chains but thought they were the only ones. Souls who wanted to leave but didn't know if they'd survive the judgment. Hearts who were tired but convinced they had to keep going because that's what strong people do. And then you left, and you survived, and you didn't come back broken. You came back free. You became the evidence that they needed, the proof that walking away doesn't make you a monster, the living testimony that choosing yourself is not the end of the world, it's the beginning of your life. And one by one, people started following your lead. That friend who was stuck in a relationship that was slowly killing them, they finally left. That coworker who was being exploited by a boss who mistook dedication for desperation, they finally quit. That family member who was tired of being the emotional punching bag for people who never healed their own trauma, they finally set boundaries. And every single one of them will tell you the same thing. I watched you do it first. I watched you survive it. You made me believe I could too. You didn't try to be a hero. You didn't set out to inspire anyone. You didn't make a movement or start a revolution. You just saved yourself. But in a world where people are taught to die for others' comfort, choosing to live for yourself is a radical act. In a culture that glorifies self-sacrifice to the point of self-destruction, prioritizing your own peace is rebellion. In a society that conditions people to shrink, to serve, to stay silent, standing up and walking away is warfare. You declared war on the system that was killing you, and you won. And everyone who was losing that same war saw you win and realized victory was possible. They call it selfish, but the people you saved, the ones who found their courage in your escape, the ones who finally chose themselves after watching you do it first, they call it something else. They call it permission. They call it validation. They call it the wake-up call they didn't know they needed. Because you proved that the guilt is survivable. You proved that the judgment is temporary. You proved that people will talk no matter what you do, so you might as well do what keeps you alive. You became the blueprint for self-rescue, and now there's a whole generation of people who are choosing themselves, setting boundaries, walking away from toxicity, refusing to shrink, and they're doing it because you did it first. Not because you told them to, but because you showed them it was possible. So let's address the title directly. You weren't trying to save anyone. Facts. You were just trying to survive. You were drowning and you swam. You were burning and you escaped. You were trapped and you found the exit. There was no heroic intention, no grand plan, no desire to be anyone's inspiration. You were in survival mode, fighting for your life, choosing your sanity over their expectations. But here's the beautiful, terrifying, powerful truth. Your survival became someone else's survival guide. Your escape became someone else's permission to be free. You saved everything by saving yourself. And now you're a legend, not the kind they write about in books or make movies about. The kind they whisper about in late-night conversations, the kind they reference when they're gathering courage, the kind they think about when they're standing at their own crossroads, trying to decide if they should stay or if they should save themselves. You're the story they tell when someone asks, "Is it really okay to choose yourself?" You're the proof they cite when someone says, "But what will people think?" You're the example they use when someone is drowning in guilt for considering self-preservation. You became the legend that gives permission to be human. They wanted you to stay small. They needed you to stay stuck. They required you to stay suffering so they could feel superior. But you refused. You expanded. You evolved. You erupted out of the box they built for you. And you didn't apologize for the destruction. And now every single person who tried to keep you contained is watching you soar. And they're confused, they're bitter, they're analyzing, they're wondering how you did it, how you survived the thing that was supposed to destroy you, how you thrived after the thing that was supposed to break you. And the answer is simple: you chose you. That's it. That's the secret. There's no magic formula, no special technique, no hidden wisdom. You just decided that your life mattered more than their opinion of it. And here's what they'll never understand. You don't feel guilty. You're not coming back. You're not second-guessing your decision. You're not losing sleep over people who are losing sleep over you. Because once you taste freedom, once you experience peace, once you feel what it's like to exist without constantly apologizing for your existence, you can't go back. You won't go back. The old version of you is dead and buried, and you're not performing a resurrection for an audience that never appreciated you when you were alive. You're not here to prove anything. You're not here to defend your decision. You're not here to make them understand. You're here to live fully, loudly, unapologetically. And if that makes you selfish in their eyes, then you'll wear that label like a crown. Let me tell you what really happened. What they call selfishness is actually self-awareness. What they call abandonment is actually calm resetting. What they call cold is actually calm. What they call heartless is actually healed. You didn't lose your empathy. You just stopped directing it at people who weaponized it. You didn't become cruel. You just stopped being convenient. You didn't turn into a monster. You just stopped pretending to be a martyr. And that shift, that transition from self-sacrifice to self-preservation, it terrified them because it exposed them. Your presence used to make them feel good about themselves. Your struggle made them feel successful. Your chaos made them feel stable. Your wounds made them feel whole. They needed you broken because it validated their mediocrity. But when you healed, when you stabilized, when you found peace, suddenly they had to face themselves without the distraction of fixing you. And what they saw in that mirror, it wasn't pretty. So instead of looking inward, they looked at you. And they decided you were the problem. You were too much. You changed. You're not who you used to be. And you know what? They're right. You're not who you used to be. You're who you were always meant to be. Before they convinced you to shrink, you became the villain in their story, so you could be the hero in your own. And that trade-off, that exchange, that decision to prioritize your narrative over their comfort, it wasn't selfish. It was necessary. It was survival. It was the most loving thing you've ever done for yourself, because staying would have killed you. Not physically maybe, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally. You would have disappeared into their expectations, dissolved into their demands, evaporated into their needs, until there was nothing left of you but a ghost performing a role that was never meant for you. So you chose life. You chose yourself. And that choice rippled outward in ways you'll never fully comprehend. Somewhere right now, someone is gathering the courage to leave because you left first. Someone is setting a boundary because you set one and survived. Someone is choosing themselves because you proved it's possible. Someone is saying no because you said no, and the world didn't end. Someone is walking away because you walked away and found peace on the other side. You weren't trying to save anyone, but you just saved everything. You saved yourself from destruction. You saved others from staying in their own destruction. You saved the future from a version of you that would have been a cautionary tale instead of a comeback story. You saved the narrative from another story of martyrdom and replaced it with a story of resurrection. So here we are, at the end of this conversation, and you're probably wondering what happens next. Here's what happens. Nothing changes. You don't go back. You don't apologize. You don't shrink to make them comfortable.